It's a pleasure. Thank you very much, Kathy, for the introduction, and thank you for TMLT for allowing us to join you today. And thank you all for your time, taking out of your busy day to spend some time with us. Um, we're excited to present this information um, to you, and um, I'm going to present it fairly quickly. I want to present a lot of information in a very short time, but but we'll go through it quickly, and this is an outline of what we're going to do today. We're going to touch down on the HIPAA Security Rule and technical safeguards, but then we're going to look at mainly at the common cyber threats that each organization faces out there today, signs of a breach and how to respond to that, and then an overall hardening of your systems, workforce, and network. Um, I think I jumped one slide too many there, but yeah. In terms of looking at how to protect your organization efficiently, it's really people, processes, and technology. So the leadership in your organization has to be behind the initiative to protect your organization. Your workforce has to be knowledgeable, and you have to have the right processes and technology in place to protect it in today's environment. The security rule general requirements are, of course, you got to maintain the confidentiality, integrity of and availability of the PHI that you receive, maintain, and transmit. You have to protect it from all reasonably anticipated threats, and so that includes man-made threats or natural threats, but you have to look at all of them. And also, you got to protect it against reasonably anticipated disclosures that are not permitted by the privacy rule, and ensure that the workforce is complying with this requirement. So these are the four basic aspects of the security rule. I'm touchy on that button there today. The technical safeguard summary is that you have to maintain access control of who can access PHI, and that you have to provide audit controls to see who has changed what or accessed what information. You have to maintain the data integrity so that the correct information is available when healthcare is delivered. And you have to ensure that the right person or the person who says they are accessing that data is really that person. And then protect it during transmission. It has to be secure as well. So let's talk about the common cyber threats we face today. So starting when you log into your workstation, you have to use strong passwords. A brute force attack is an automated and efficient attack that can crack most basic passwords. We're recommending 12 to 16 characters, and it be complex as well. So I put down this password that I have a dog and she loves these salmon flavored treats, and so I just created this password based upon a phrase that I can easily remember, and it's complex enough to where nobody could really hack into it. Never use your personal passwords for your home applications like Facebook or anything else at work, because if those organizations get breached, they can easily track and figure out where you work by the public information that's out there, and they will try to use those passwords to break into your business or your practice. Never share your passwords, and if you got a lot of passwords to remember, get yourself a password vault like LastPass or Dashlane. There's a lot of good ones out there. We generally don't recommend that you store those passwords in your browser because of security issues. I know that Google does encrypt their passwords today, but there's a lot of issues with browsers in general about security. Phishing, that's probably the most prevalent threat you see today. And phishing is based on social engineering, where they're taking common human traits and leveraging it to get you to do something. So based on curiosity or based on fear or based on those type of things, they'll put out things that will try to get you to divulge information. And so they want to get access to your accounts, or they want to allow the installation of malware on your system. So by clicking on a hyperlink, that really allows them to pass through your firewall and deliver malware onto your system. So you have to be very cautious about that. But we've all gotten the Amazon gift card offer, or somebody offering something that's really too good to be true. And so what they're really after is to break into your systems and steal your data. So here's a phishing example that we received in our office. And this one's a particularly bad example because it's so flagrantly poorly written. And so if you look at the email addresses, they're not logical for Microsoft. Office 265 doesn't make sense. And then Microsoft isn't spelled with this unusual character. I've never seen it spelled that way. And then also, they're not consistent. They use this, a different spelling in other parts of the organization. The grammar is particularly bad. Only valid credentials will benefit this update. Clearly, it was not written by somebody that's proficient in English. So, this is a fairly flagrant example. But here's a couple of examples that are not quite so flagrant. So again, the only two really telling issues in this message is the person is not from Microsoft who sent this email to you, and an odd signature line. In the second message here, oops, there we are. In the second message here, the name on them that they advertise or that's mentioned is not the same person in the email. And then you're getting an unexpected attachment, and they're providing a password for it. Clearly, again, this is something that you're not expecting. Don't click on the hyperlinks. Spear phishing is a very efficient attack vector. Spear phishing is when they research your organization and they research the people in it, and then they spend time learning about an individual, and then they target that individual and spoof an email so it looks like it's coming from an executive in the organization and getting them to do something that you normally wouldn't do. So here's an example where in 2017, the entire city of San Marcos, just south of Austin, all the employees lost their W-2s, and the way they found out about it was that all of their tax returns had been filed. So there was a spoofed email telling the accounting organization to send the W-2s to an executive, and really it was to take them out of the company. This is a very common type of thing. I've had customers who've had payroll reroute their paychecks or buy gift cards and send the numbers off to some other person, right? So it's a very common and efficient tactic. The way to prevent this is to always get verification from management. If you get a request from somebody in your organization who wants you to do something unusual, validate that request from them. So also, malvertising is not quite as well known, but it's out there. Hackers can take over an advertisement, just like, and put a hyperlink in it that does the same thing as a phishing email and injects a malware onto your system. So I always recommend don't follow these ads. If you're going to buy something, go directly to the website and avoid using these ads, especially from your workstation. And that brings us to this next focused topic that I want to talk about is your workstation, your system at work should just be used for work. Try to isolate that from any personal activity. And use your smartphone for all the other things we do in life, right? Use that for all your personal activities. If your company doesn't have a guest Wi-Fi set up so that you can use your cell phone for your personal business, they should. You should have a guest Wi-Fi access. And we strongly encourage that you separate the two. Don't put work on your personal cell phone, and don't use the work system for your personal business. So let's talk about how a ransomware or a cyber attack happens. This will give you a little bit better idea of what's involved in the process. So step one is that you possibly click on a link in a phishing email, and when you do that, it provides authorization for them to pass software or malware through the firewall. That's what happens. If the other route in terms of how they approach that is that they will send that authorization up to a command and control center cloud environment and then install a backdoor. And a backdoor in your firewall essentially is an unknown or a port that is opened that your organization is unaware has been opened. And then they can do a file drop from that standpoint into your network. Malvertising acts in the same way. It can either be a direct drop or they can go through the command and control process as well. So once they've entered your organization, they've got to navigate around and look for data. It's just like Dorothy landing in the Oz, right? You've got to find your way around till you hit that information that you're looking for. And so once they locate it, then they will siphon that data off over time and sip it out or do it at an off time, like during a weekend or something like that. And then they will detonate the ransomware. And the ransomware, they will export the keys, and then if you don't have good backups, you will have to pay to get those encryption keys back. The last thing I wanted to talk about is insider threats. This is a difficult topic that many people are challenged to discuss in an organization, but you need to kind of take it head on. And what are the early warning signs of an insider threat? Poor performance appraisals, people that are really dissatisfied with the organization or having difficult relationships with coworkers, people who want to work odd hours, right? Work at night when there really isn't a call to, or people that are having financial distress or on the way out of the company. These are people who typically conduct or execute an insider threat. That's stuck again. Okay, there it goes. How do we prevent these type of things? Use the principle of least privileges. Only provide access to the people who to the things they specifically need to do their jobs. Do not use privileged accounts, those for systems administration work, to do routine work. Adhere to change management requirements, right? If a job changes and they no longer need access to data, turn that data off. Discuss insider threats at work meetings. Make it known that it's okay to bring up these issues, and also implement good background checks. One of the leading indicators of an insider threat is a credit check, by the way. And then the last thing is, if you see something, say something. People using portable media when they shouldn't be, right? Copying stuff off, accessing another person's workstation, or using someone else's credentials, requesting data they don't have access to normally, or requesting someone else do something that's illegal or not within company policy. So if you see something like that, tell somebody. And typically we say, it's always hindsight. When you look back at an insider threat, you go, it was obvious he was doing these things, but you need to pay attention before that happens, because it can cause serious damage to your organization. So what are some signs that your system's been infected? It can be very subtle, right? Unusual behavior. The system doesn't act like it normally does. You can get fake antivirus messages, or internet searches can be redirected. If you get responses for social media that you didn't send, that's another good indication. If your password stops working, that's a pretty solid one. Unexpected softwares, that's difficult to see these days because we're constantly getting updates because of all the security and vulnerability issues out there. I know Microsoft does it once a week, and I constantly get updates on my system, and it's a challenge to understand or identify that one. If your mouse moves without you moving it, that's somebody who's doing a remote desktop protocol. That's a serious issue. If your anti-malware software or task manager stops working, I had this happen to my laptop. I left it on while I went out to dinner at a hotel. And when I was at a hotel, and somebody hacked into my system and had to wipe the disk and start over. Ransomware messages, that's obvious, and then money missing out of your account, that's always, again, another bad sign. So what happens if you detect that your system has been hacked? You know, if you happen to click on something and then see it do something unusual, you click on a hyperlink that you thought was good, and it starts doing something unusual, don't make rush decisions. Relax, take control of the situation. The easiest thing to do is just to isolate your computer. Disconnect the Ethernet cable or shut down the Wi-Fi so that nobody else can be potentially infected by what's going on. Leave the systems running, contact your security officer immediately, report your concerns. They'll come up and look at it. If necessary, they'll implement an incident response plan. But it's if you think something's happened, it's better to be safe than sorry, and report it and get it taken care of rather than let it go unchecked. And we are constantly called into situations where somebody said, "Yeah, I thought something happened, but I just didn't want to bother anybody," and then the entire network becomes infected, and it's a major cost and headache to fix everything. So we talk about ourselves. One of the things I like to enforce with people is you're a human firewall. You're a person who can help protect your organization. So we encourage everybody in their organization to participate and support a security risk assessment and identify those risks and look at how to minimize them. Everybody should have formal cybersecurity training. You need to be up to date on what's going on out there. Phishing campaigns to workforce to train them to not click on those suspicious emails. Use strong passwords. I can't emphasize that enough. The stronger your password, the better. And if you create a strong password, you don't have to change it as often. Don't use personal passwords at work. That's another big one, very important. If you happen to use a remote desktop protocol, make sure it is terminated when you're done using it. There are search engines out there that can identify active RDP sessions, and they will try to hack into them. So I really discourage the use of those. And enforce a sanctions policy. People need to understand that there are consequences if they don't follow the rules. Hardening your system. So you need an inventory of all your sensitive data, where it's located at. That's very essential. Top of my list is make sure your backups work. You've got to test them, and they've got to be offsite. They've got to be secure, but you have to confirm that your backups work. Don't use privileged accounts for non-systems admin activities. Very essential, very important as well. On your workstation, turn on your system and application logging so that we can detect what's happened if something bad goes wrong. If you access your EHR system through a browser, you should have your cache cleared each day. And the reason being is that data may arrive to your workstation encrypted, but then is decrypted, placed in temporary files in the browser so that you can read it. And it's all stored there. So that should be dumped each day. You should get rid of that cache. And then strong passwords is another very important thing. And then do not allow additional software to be installed by the user or browser plugins. There's a lot of browser plugins that have been disclosing data lately. And then lastly, in terms of hardening your network, use an inventory tool, a software tool to determine what's on your network, hardware and software.